You have to know this. The fact that I'm here matters. The fact that you're there matters. This is no accident. None of us are.
هذه هي قوة مصر.
لقد قررت أن أتنحى تماماً.
Red everywhere, essentially, down by 4-5%. We're down over 16%.
Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate.
Because the Muhammad Ali Joe Frazier is going to be better than the Muhammad Ali.
Our country is strong. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation.
نريدها قومة ونهضة إسلامية.
سنعود إلى كويتنا كما عهدناها دار أمن وأمان.
Yes, we can.
مهمتنا في برنامج أصحاب السلطة هي أن نلتقي بالقمم حيثما يكونوا في العالم. اليوم ضيفنا هو من التقى بهم على مدار عقود. هو أسطورة الإعلام، بل هو ملك الشاشة الصغيرة. هو الأسطورة لاري كينغ هنا في بيفرلي هيلز، لوس أنجلوس.
Larry King now.
That's the intro.
I mean, you set the tone, man.
You are the king of kings. Sing is king.
Funny.
Got a funny from Larry King. You know it's funny.
You're getting a lap dance.
ولد لورنس هارفي زيجر المعروف باسم لاري كينغ في نوفمبر عام 1933 لأب وأم يهوديين هاجرا من بيلاروسيا إلى أمريكا. بدأت حياة كينغ الإعلامية في إذاعة صغيرة في ميامي، حيث استقال أحد المذيعين ليقدم فقرات موسيقية ونشرات أخبار ورياضة مقابل $55 أسبوعياً. أصبح لاري كينغ الإعلامي الأعلى دخلاً في العالم براتب سنوي بلغ $15 مليون وطائرة خاصة لتنقلاته من منزله في نيويورك إلى الاستوديو في لوس أنجلوس.
لاري كينغ ملك الإعلام بدون منازع، أجرى آلاف اللقاءات خلال مسيرته الإعلامية، معظمها لا يزال محفوظ في أرشيف شبكة CNN الإخبارية الأمريكية. تابعه ملايين المشاهدين حول العالم، وترك بصمة وماركة مسجلة باسمه ستظل محفورة طويلا في تاريخ الإعلام المعاصر. قضى أكثر من ربع قرن في قناة CNN، حيث كان يطل على مشاهديه من خلال برنامجه الذي يحمل اسمه لاري كينغ لايف قبل اعتزاله عام 2010.
Oh, the legend. Nice
Welcome to my home.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
My pleasure.
How's everything?
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you. Very beautiful, beautiful, beautiful house you have.
Thank you. I never dreamed I'd live in a place like this. As I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, very poor, and to have this now.
But here we are.
Here we are.
Look,
life.
Mr. Larry, our mission in this program is to meet people that changed the history, that changed the world, and you met them all.
I didn't set out to change the world, but if I've played a small part, I'm thrilled.
Are you ready to talk to Kuwait and to the Middle East?
Ready.
Ready, good. Beautiful picture. The President Bill Clinton with your children.
That's when they're 17 and 16, and then I think they were 3 and 2 or 4 and 3.
Wow, how to have a picture of the president in the beginning from the door. This is something not usual.
No, but I've been very blessed. I've interviewed 7 presidents.
Do you remember how many times any presenter would dream to have a president as a guest in his show? You remember how many times you had
But
president?
must have been a lot. He wrote the forward to my book.
36 times. Yes?
You know more than me. 36 times.
Yes, sir. He did a lot.
Well, he's a great guest, and he's a wonderful man. It's great to be around him. I consider him a friend. But my first was, I go back, Nixon.
Wow.
So I go Nixon through Obama.
Yes, and...
But this was very special. He was, I have a picture, there's another picture inside, I have him when Chance...
Many amazing pictures.
When Chance was like 3 months old.
And he's part of the family, as I see. You have family pictures, and in the middle, a president.
I walk with kings.
Yes.
And you.
Hopefully, after you, getting your lead.
Thank you.
So can we go inside your house, please?
Please.
Thank you, after you.
Thank you.
We'll be talking on many things. We'll be talking about the early days, going through your many years of success.
It's been a long life.
Yes.
I hope it's longer.
Yes. Larry King. Let me start with this question. Why Larry King? From where did that name come from?
Well, my name was Larry Zeiger, and I was Larry Zeiger for 22 and a half years. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. My father died when I was 9.5. My brother was 6.5. My mother couldn't go to work, so we were on relief. But I always wanted to be in radio. Never wanted anything else since I was 5 years old. I would look at the radio and I would imitate the radio announcers. I wanted to be like them. When I was a teenager, I'd visit radio shows. That's all I ever wanted. And finally, I never went to college. I knocked around, had a bunch of odd jobs. And James Sermons, a man who's still alive, he was director of announcers at CBS. I met him on the street, and I told him I want to be an announcer. He said, go to Miami, try Miami, a lot of stations. So I went down to Miami, I had $20 in my pocket, $23, and I stayed with my uncle. He had a little apartment. And I knocked on doors, and one small radio station, I'd never spoken to a microphone before. I did a test. And the general manager said, I like your voice, and if we have an opening, you'll have it. And you hang around here and learn. So I stayed around the radio station. I watched disc jockeys and newsmen, sports. And one day a guy quit, and the station manager said, okay, Monday morning, you start. You're on from 9 to 12. You'll play music. In the afternoon, you'll do news, you'll do sports. You make $50 a week. And I was thrilled. So that was a Friday, and I stayed up all weekend, never slept, so excited. My dream was about to come true, small station. And I picked out my records that I was going to play, and I went on the air at 9, about 8:45 on Monday morning, May 1st, 1957. I always remember the date. The general manager says, so what name are you going to use? I said, Larry Zeiger. You can't use that. Too ethnic. People won't know how to spell it. Today it would be used. Any name would go today. But you can't use that. What am I going to do? So he had the newspaper open, the Miami Herald. I would later write for the Miami Herald. And there was an ad for King's Wholesale Liquors. And he said, how about King, Larry King? I said, okay. That's how I got my name. And then when I went into the studio to go on the air, music's playing, I turned on the microphone, I faded the music, and nothing came out. Nothing came out. Brought the music back up, nothing came out. I looked at the clock, it was like 2 minutes after 9. All the audience is hearing music go up and down, nobody's speaking. And I said to myself, maybe I don't have the guts. I know maybe I want this, but I'm too nervous, I can't do it. And the general manager kicked open the door and he said, this is a communications business, damn it, communicate. And he shut the door. I turned on the mic and I said, good morning. My name is Larry King. That's the first time I've ever said that.
Yes.
And the manager of the station just said, communicate. This is my first day on the air, and I'm scared. And I never was scared again.
Never ever.
Ever. Because I learned that if you're truthful, if you're yourself, you can't go wrong. So let's say I made mistakes, that I scratched the record, read the commercial wrong. The audience that's listening is saying it's his first day. So that's something true I've learned all these years in the business, 60 years almost, that the only secret in this business is there's no secret. Be yourself. So I've never copied anyone. I never try to be like anyone else. I tell this when I speak at colleges or talk to young people who want to be abroad. Be yourself. Trust your own instincts.
And speak the truth.
Speak the truth. You can't go wrong if you speak the truth. You don't have to remember anything.
But if you allow me, Larry, you're saying that saying the truth will take will make it easier, and it will make. But is it true that news channels always say the truth?
No, they don't always say. But I wasn't in the business of. I was in the business of asking questions.
Yes.
So I wasn't making speeches. I wasn't delivering news. And I never talked about myself. I never said the word I. When I asked questions, the questions were for the guests, and I'm the conduit. In other words, with you and me now, you're the conduit to the audience. You ask the questions. You don't have to be truthful. You ask the questions. I will be truthful in the answers, and through you to the audience will go the answers. So I always viewed myself as the person representing the audience. The audience isn't there, so it's me. So I ask the best questions I could think of. I listen to the answers, and hopefully provide information that's also entertaining. You can read a book and be dull. So I think if I've done anything in the world, it's added to the information of the world. I've made the people more knowledgeable. They make their own decisions. But I've tried to bring out the best that I can, learning about people. I've always been fascinated by people. Why people do what they do, why they act the way they act. And it's no difference if I'm interviewing a president or a mayor or a ballet dancer or a child, or why do you do what you do? Why do you like to do what you do? What makes you do what you do?
يقول لاري كينغ: لا أعتقد أنه يمكن على الإعلام أن يقود ثورة، بل واجب الإعلام هو نقل ما يحدث على أرض الواقع فعلا وكتابة التقارير. فالعالم اليوم تغير، فهناك الكثير من الثورات التي بدأت من خلال مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي كما حدث في ليبيا ومصر. فلا يمكن أبدا على الصحافي أن يقود ثورة، بل عليه فقط الإجابة على الأسئلة التالية: ماذا ومتى وكيف ولماذا؟
Why always why? Why is your secret the question why?
Why is the best question in the world. It can't be answered in one word, and it forces the person to think. Because people don't go around interviewing themselves, right? They live their lives. But when someone says to you, why did you, if I'm interviewing Osama bin Laden, an evil man, my first question would have been, you came from one of the richest families in Saudi Arabia. Why did you leave? Now, that sends him back to why he left, makes him think about why, And it's a much better question than why did you bomb people in New York, which would come later. Why did you leave a rich family? So he knows I'm interested in him, which I am, because evil people, see, we call people evil. An evil person doesn't get up in the morning, comb his hair and say, I am evil, right? I'm a terrible person. I'm going to commit mayhem today. They don't. They think everybody rationalizes what they do.
Yeah, right.
Right? So I approach them from where they're going to come from. And in the end, you learn a lot about people that way if you use the why. And I'm a why person.
People would love to know more about you. So I'm
So
here.
ask.
So I'm here presenting the people. And I wanted to ask, many kids dream of what is the job when they become old. People or even adults. People dream of being pilots, policemen, firefighters. You dreamed to be a presenter or a radio station.
Radio. We didn't have television. So
Why?
I don't know why. I was a child. I might have had a good voice. People might have told me I had a good voice, but I was just a kid. I just knew I liked that sound coming out of the radio. I try to imagine what they look like, those voices in my head. And I heard them in the daytime and the nighttime, and I heard them describing sports, and I heard them doing plays and playing music. And it was a wonderment to me, what was coming out of that box. Where was it coming from? What did they look like? Were they sitting? Were they standing? And I was fascinated by it. And I wanted to do that. I also liked telling stories. I liked acting out little things for my mother. In school, I was very good in English. I liked speaking. I liked communicating to people. It was a natural to me. So I never thought of anything else.
I have a friend, he's a big brother to me. He's living now in New York. His name is Mitch. He told me to ask you this question. Mitch, before 36 years, he heard you on the radio when you had a show between 12 a.m. to 5 a.m.
That was the first national talk show in America.
Yes. And he told me how he enjoyed listening to those stories. When you talk about the ice cream shop that you loved, even the guests that you had, the police officers. He told me, how did that all start? What do you feel when you tell those stories to the people and people are really enjoying their time?
Well, that was a 5-hour show. So I had guests, I had phone calls, and I had time. You know, in the format I do now, a half hour, an hour, there's no time to tell stories. I'm asking questions. But I'm a good storyteller. Those were long stories. But I could tell in a 5-hour show, I could tell a 20-minute story. Can't do it now. You know, we're talking here. But I like telling jokes. I like telling stories. I like referring to things that happened to me when I was a child. I call myself a communicator. Mm-hmm. And having a 5-hour show, I was doing television, and then a 5-hour radio show, I was writing a column, I would write books. I always loved the idea of communicating to people by asking questions, telling stories. It was just, now where that came from, I have no idea.
Ted Turner, who created CNN.
One of my best friends.
Great man.
A great man.
Sure, 100%. He changed the world. He's one of the people that changed the world because he created CNN.
Changed the world.
Yes, and he wanted he wanted to have you on CNN. Do you remember that story?
Oh, yeah. Ted had guested on my show. He''d been on my radio show. He'd been on my local television show in Washington and in Miami. And he started CNN in 1980. Yes. And in 1985, he had a girl on the air, Sandy Freeman, who did a show. And her husband represented her, and he didn't like her husband. and her husband was trying to hold him up. You know, you've got to sign this contract. So he called me, and he said, this was a Tuesday. He said, I want to know by Friday, would you like to have your own show on CNN? So I said, well, Ted, I love you, but I've got a local television show. I got a national radio show. I'm single. I can go to ball games. I can go. So I'd have to work 9 to 10. I'm doing 12 to 5 on radio. He says, well, think about it. So I sent my agent, Bob Wolf, to see him. A wonderful man who passed away. A great agent. First sports agent. And he came back, he said, listen, Ted will give you a good deal. He'll give you a 3-year contract. You'll make what you're making on the radio, you'll make the same thing. You'll double your income. And after 1 year, if you're unhappy, you can quit. So we called Ted, and I told Ted told that guy, the husband of the woman, goodbye. And a week later, we created Larry King Live. And the first night, Othman, the first night I was on the air, Mario Cuomo, the governor of New York, was my guest. I knew that would work.
You've talked about being truthful, and we talked now about Ted Turner. That leads me to something else, another moral, which is loyalty. Being loyal to Ted Turner. I heard one of your speeches.
That's a great
story. You talk about loyalty.
Bob Wolf had brilliantly put into my contract I signed my contract in 85, and then we signed a new contract in 87. And he had a window in 1988. A window was a 30-day window where I could look for other jobs. Mm-hmm. And if I found a job and I gave them 30-day notice, I could get a new job. So we went around and we visited television stations, and it was fantastic. And I met with Oprah Winfrey's producers, and they offered me something, and I met with ABC, and they offered me to follow Nightline. It was very heady. I was just, ooh, wow. I got all these great offers. So I was offered Disney, NBC, so finally we worked it down to 2. It was either going to be King World, Oprah's people, or ABC. So we told both of them it'll be one or the other, but we have to tell Ted, because we had an end mark. So Bob Wolf flew down to Atlanta to tell Ted. I flew out to California from Washington, where I live, went to the Beverly Hills Hotel, and I knew that Bob was meeting with Ted in Atlanta, and he was going to tell him I'm leaving.
Because you're already finished, you did your decision.
And all my friends, all my friends are telling me, I was making $800,000 at CNN, and both these offers were $1.5 million each. $1.5 million. So I'm going to double my money. Yes. And it was just fantastic. And I was a friend with Angie Dickinson, the actress, who met me at the airport. And she asked me, driving to the hotel, why are you leaving? So I said, it was double money. She said, are you leaving just for money? If you leave just for money, the first day you're unhappy, you're going to feel terrible. So she put that in my mind. Anyway, I'm at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's 9 o'clock in Atlanta, 6 o'clock here. The phone rings, and it's Ted Turner. It's Ted Turner. All he's saying is, Larry, Bob Wolf is here. He just told me you're going to leave, but I want to hear it from you, Larry. Say goodbye, Ted. I got my mouth. Say goodbye, Ted. You can't say it. You can't say it. You stay with me. I'll give you the same money in a year. And you won't be sorry. Bob Wolf is screaming, this is unethical, this is wrong. I'm his agent. It was really funny. And I stayed. And I stayed another 23 years. If you're loyal to Ted, he's very loyal to you. He never, ever said anything he didn't come through on. If he said it, all he did was a handshake.
التقى لاري كينغ جميع رؤساء الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية، بدءاً من الراحل ريتشارد نيكسون إلى الرئيس الأمريكي الحالي باراك أوباما. كما التقى بالعديد من الشخصيات المؤثرة في التاريخ، ومنهم الرئيس السوفيتي السابق ميخائيل غورباتشوف، ورئيس وزراء بريطانيا السابق توني بلير، ومعمر القذافي. وكان أول من جمع الرئيس الراحل الفلسطيني ياسر عرفات وملك الأردن الراحل الملك حسين وإسحاق رابين في مناظرة تلفزيونية عام 1995 للحديث عن السلام في الشرق الأوسط.
You've interviewed leaders, people that changed history, and you were pointing before we start to al-Gaddafi interview. And I wanted to ask you that question. Meeting someone with power, leading a country, and that powerful character. And then after a few months or years, seeing him dying in his own streets by the hands of his people. How did that felt?
Well, Gaddafi, Arafat, I met a lot of great world leaders. Yitzhak Rabin. World leaders who have passed away have been killed. Those three died tragically. I don't feel it. They weren't my friends. I got to know them. This I know, no matter how big you are, the pants goes on one leg at a time. They all go to the bathroom. They all have loves and hurts, likes and dislikes. They're all human, whether it's Putin or Obama or John Jones. They're all human, they all have feelings. I have feelings. It's sad, I got to know them, and then to think the way they left is terrible. And you go on, history goes on, life goes on. I feel wonderful that could be in a position to talk to people. I mean, I had one day where in one day I interviewed Ahmadinejad of Iran, the head of Venezuela, and Gaddafi. Same day. Wow. Taping all three. What am I doing with these people? I still feel like, wow. I almost feel like I'm looking at myself. That I did a show once with Arafat, Yitzhak Rabin, Arafat the head of Palestine, yes. Yitzhak Rabin the head of Israel, and King Hussein of Jordan. All three at the same time, satellite. And Henry Kissinger called me and said, "You're a diplomat. You are trying to create peace in the world." And I thought to myself, I'm Larry Zeiger. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. Art Buchwald once, the great writer, gave me an award. And as he presented the award, he says, "The best thing about Larry King is he doesn't know he's Larry King." And that really rung with me because I really don't, I look at my trophy room or I look at all these pictures and stuff, and it's very nice. And it's a sense of accomplishment. But I know you perceive it as power, and it might be perceived as power, which is nice for me, but I don't perceive it.
But you've met people with power.
Oh, yeah. Of all stripes.
Such as Gorbachev, Mikhail Gorbachev, or F.W. de Klerk you've mentioned, which are some of the people that we've met in this program. And I wanted to share this story with you. When we met Gorbachev, the last president of the Soviet Union, and it was tough. And I think you can imagine that. And when we had the first hour of the interview, and I had only the chance to ask 2 questions.
He talks a lot.
I try to interrupt, but he doesn't give me the chance. He even tell me the order. Don't interrupt, let me continue my answer. And as you know, the time is limited, and I can't wait for those long stories. So I've mentioned a question about Yeltsin. And you know how Yeltsin affected him, ending his period in the Soviet Union. And he asked me a question after me asking him, have you read my books? I was shocked at that moment, and luckily, I remembered one of the paragraphs that I read in his books, which says or describes the last day that he wanted or he planned to go into his office as the last day, and received that phone call in the car telling him, go back, Yassin is already in your office, spending a good time with his friend, drinking, and they're waiting for you to laugh in your face. So I told him that quote, and I told him, do you remember that phone call, Mr. Gorbachev? And that was the flip of the interview. I want you to share us some of those moments when you face a guest and you think that he's closed. What are those moments when the guest opens his heart and go and speak easily?
Well, you don't plan it, and guests that are tough, either they're talking too much or not talking at all, it's your job to do the best you can to draw them out. So you got lucky. By the way, luck is a big part of this. You got lucky that you remembered that one passage and went to that one moment. And those are called moments. And you can get the right moment. When I first interviewed Frank Sinatra, they told me, don't ask him about his son's kidnapping, because he gets very mad. He doesn't want to talk about it. So in the middle of the interview, I asked him, what's the problem you have with the press? Is some of it your fault, or do they sometimes really rap you? And he said, well, sometimes it's my fault, but sometimes they rap me. Take my son's kidnapping. He brought it up. Wow. Because I lucked into the right question. Ross Perot is on my show, 1992. And at the beginning of the show, I said, a friend told me you're going to run for president. He said, no, I'm not going to run. Halfway through the show, I say again, you sure you're not going to run? Yeah. Now there's 5 minutes left in the program. And I don't know where it came from. My instinct said, and I asked it this way, are there any circumstances in which you would run? And he said, well, if the public would sign, if I could be on the ballot in all 50 states, I would run. Yeah. That changed American politics. Wow. That made the talk show prominent. That made an independent candidate could get 19% of the vote and was once ahead. It propelled me into that whole story. And all because of a simple, are there any circumstances under which you would run? Because if he says no to that, he's not going to run. But if he said, boy. So you're right. Little openings lead to sometimes gratifying things.
Do you prepare your questions? Do you write?
No, I don't. I've never prepared a question. That's, of course, when I started on radio in Miami. I was doing a disc jockey show, and then I did a show from a restaurant where I would interview people in the restaurant. But we had no producer, we didn't plan anything. And one day, Bobby Darin, great singer, came in. And then other famous people started to come in. But I couldn't prepare for them, I didn't know they were coming. Jimmy Hoffa, Ed Sullivan. So I got to think off the top, and I got to like that. So I pretty much carried that through. And so now whenever I've done shows, CNN, they would give me notes, you know, the senator is on, he voted for this, but they never gave me a question. And all the questions came from here. And I liked that. In fact, we did a week once, a whole week of shows on radio in which I didn't know the guest. Truth. They would bring a guest in.
You don't know him?
Don't know him at all. Sit him down, I'd go, good evening, and then they'd hand me a piece of paper. My guest is Dr. Slonkin, heart specialist. That's the first I know who the guest is and what his subject is. And I would do an hour. But I loved that. I loved interviewing people about subjects I don't know anything about. Those are my favorites. because then I really got to learn. I interviewed Dr. Edward Teller, the inventor of the hydrogen bomb. And before we began the interview, he said, "What do you know about physics?" I said, "Nothing." He said, "What do you know about me?" I said, "I know you invented the hydrogen bomb." He says, "Everybody knows that. What else do you know?" I don't know anything. He goes, "How can we do this? How can we do this?" I said, "Okay, give it a try. See, maybe you like it, maybe you won't. We're taping, so you could walk away." And my first question was, how come when we were in school, why did we fear physics? And he lit up, because they teach it wrong. Physics is life, and he started expounding. And I was asking him questions like, once the math worked, did you know the bomb would work? Yes. Once the math works, the bomb will work. I don't have to see the experiment. So by the end of the interview, and I've taken him all over this place, a wonderful hour, he says to me, "Why didn't you tell me you knew about physics?" And I knew nothing about it. So that was a great compliment to me. So I'm in wonderment. You do not want to sit next to me on an airplane, because I want to know all about you. I flew 6 months ago back from New York to LA with the president of Audi Motor Cars. I learned more about cars than you will ever learn in your life. I know he was going to the bathroom, faking it just to get away. But I learned.
Just to take a break.
Give me a break. But I learned so much about cars. Want a little tip on a car?
Yes.
When you buy a car, make sure it was made on a Wednesday.
Why Wednesday?
Okay. Wow. Good question. On Monday, the workers just came back to work. Not ready to work yet. Tuesday, they just get settled in. Wednesday, they're working. Thursday, they're looking forward to Friday, and Friday, they're looking forward to the weekend. So if you're going to get a lemon, if the screw wasn't tightened enough, it was made on a Friday, when they're looking at the clock. But Wednesday, good tip.
Sure, good one.
And they can tell you what day your car was made.
They'll tell me,
Yeah,
so I'll ask.
You ask the salesman, and he checks the records, and they check with the company, and they'll tell you what day that car came off the line.
Good tip. Hopefully they don't lie now and saying for people that's...
I'm helping everybody in Kuwait. You're buying a car, what day was it made?
Sure. You said that you don't prepare questions.
No.
You have a daily guests. Maybe you have, as you said, maybe you're with me today, tomorrow you're with Obama.
Right.
How do you think of the next episode, or you
No. I never think of who I'm doing next or who I did yesterday. One, I can't do anything about yesterday. Can't change yesterday.
Yeah, of course.
And tomorrow, if I'm thinking about tomorrow, I focus on the guest today. If you are interviewing me now, and you're going to go interview Mike Tyson.
Yes.
If you're thinking about Mike Tyson, you're going to lose your train of thought here. When I'm on, nothing's on my mind but what I have to concentrate on.
And because of all that, you won many trophies. Can we go and see some of them?
We can go anywhere you want, Otto. I would follow you to the star.
Thank you. Then
Let's
lead
go.
us now. Thank you.
This is my ego room.
Ego room.
Whenever I feel a little down, I come in here to see what did I do. So I have a collection here on that side, mostly sports, and over here, presidents and kings and awards, and it's a thrilling room. It's a room I treasure. makes you think of what you've accomplished?
I think of this like a heaven, you know, when someone gives and make and work, and then he has his price, which is the heaven. Isn't this your heaven?
Well, this is this is when I was king of Bacchus in New Orleans at various pictures, trophies.
What's the best out of them all? Is there something unique?
Something over there is a letter from Frank Sinatra, a letter from John Kennedy Jr., who died tragically in the plane crash. The articles from the New York Times. Up there is George Bush and his family. Took a picture of me and my wife and wrote a letter and sent it to us. It's my wife with Madonna. This is former first ladies. Over here we have the torch over there from the Olympics. I carried the torch for the Salt Lake City Olympics drawings of me, my children as young kids, the Cable Hall of Fame.
I wanted to ask you, many trophies. What motivates you now? To have one more? To have two more? What makes this nice after having this and that and that and that?
I don't know. It's a good question, Arthur. You're doing good at this.
Thank you.
It's just, it's a sense of how much I've done, you know, and I think of all the things I've done and the people that you get, it's a recognition. And one of the things we want in life is to be recognized. It's nice if you choose a profession where you're in the public eye and you get recognized. Well, that's a sense of a feeling of accomplishments, pride. You know, it's a wonderful thing to know that you've done something in life that has affected others. It's been very nice. It's all very nice. It doesn't really mean happiness, though. It's just, it's a part of an existence I chose to lead and the results I got from it. It's wonderful.
Yes, it is. But what makes an award different? What makes an award special?
Well, the best award I ever got is, it's in another room, but it was a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Emmys. Now, the Emmys is our industry, it's my business, and it's voted by your peers. And a Lifetime Achievement Award means that they're saluting your life.
A life.
And that was a very, very proud night in my life.
We have one more for you, if you'd allow us.
What?
A gift from Kuwait that represents our program, if you allow us. This is something that represents our country. This is a ship where we travel from somewhere to somewhere. We travel, this is...
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
You do a lot of sail ships?
Yes, this also goes back to a ship where it was owned by my grandfather, which was one of the biggest in Kuwait. We used this to travel, to know people, because this is how it is in Kuwait. We love to know more about people.
And this says power owners?
أصحاب السلطة, which is power owners in Arabic. Can you say أصحاب السلطة?
What?
أصحاب السلطة.
Atav Sulta.
Yes, it seems good. Thank you.
Thank you. What an honor.
بدأ لاري كينغ مسيرته الإعلامية في أحد القنوات المتواضعة والصغيرة جدا في ميامي عام 1957، حيث كان يتقاضى $55 فقط أسبوعيا. بعد ذلك قدم أحد البرامج الحوارية التي نالت إعجاب تيد تيرنر مؤسس قناة CNN، الذي عرض عليه الانتقال للعمل في القناة عام 1978، ليصبح لاري كينغ الإعلامي الأعلى أجراً بعد ذلك براتب $15 مليون سنوياً، وطائرة خاصة تنقل لاري كينغ من منزله الخاص في نيويورك إلى استديوهات CNN هنا في لوس أنجلوس.
You're the king of CNN. Let's talk Let's talk about CNN. Is CNN neutral? Do you think CNN is neutral?
Well, CNN is, we've always asked this question in news. Do we follow the news or do we lead the news?
Yes.
And it's never really been answered. Obviously, when a big news story breaks, we follow it. But do we lead it? And when do we decide a news story isn't a news story? CNN has changed. They don't do talk shows anymore. You know, I had a principal talk show in prime time. Now they do a lot of documentaries. In the political season, that's all they do. It's almost like there's no other news. And 24-hour news causes some problems is that you tend to jump to things without verifying it. They have all the news networks have that problem. The national news networks are fading, ABC, CBS, and NBC. But on the other hand, the internet is forging into cable. So technology is so far advanced now that we're far ahead. So the dilemma is, what is news? News is that which is out of the ordinary. And do we follow it or do we make it? Like, for example, that Malaysian plane that was never found.
Yes.
CNN overcovered that. They covered it every day and ad infinitum. And the problem with it, I felt, was the only thing they ever found out was it made a left turn. Everything else, there's too much conjecture. And this is what the cable networks, they think about, they're pundits, they think about things, they analyze, but it's not news. Analysis is not news, it's what they think of the news. So it's a perplexing.
Larry, if you allow me, I wanted to ask whether you believe that news channels are tools, are they neutral, are they, some say that CNN sometimes is a tool, one of CIA's tools, for example.
That has always made me laugh. If it is, it's deeply hidden inside the inner circles. I can say this, in 25 years I was never edited, I was never told what to ask, never told what to say, never had a guest canceled because somebody didn't like it. So if that's happening, I don't see it. And I've always also seen that CNN is accused of being pro-Palestinian.
Yes.
And other sides say it's pro-Israel. I've never seen it. I will tell you this, in all the meetings I've been at and everything, I've never seen anyone say, let's go out and get this today. Let's cover this and not cover that. Let's favor this and not favor. I've never seen that. So if that's true, I think it's more people who like to think, who always suspect everything. There are people who believe we've never been on the moon.
Yes.
The Holocaust didn't happen.
9/11.
9/11 was imploded from inside. That's all. I don't buy it.
You don't, but do you think people buy it? What do you think of people?
People like conspiracy. For example, it's hard to conceive that Lee Harvey Oswald, acting alone, killed John Kennedy. This nondescript little guy from Moscow and Cuba could knock off a president of the United States. But it happened. It happened. John Wilkes Booth killed Lincoln.
Yes.
It happens. John Kennedy once said, you know, if you want to kill a president and you want to give up your own life, you could do it. You could do it. I mean, the Secret Service can do all they can, but if a president's speaking somewhere, right?
Yes.
And it's a big crowd and you've got a hidden rifle
You'll find
and
a
you're
space.
willing to die. You're willing to die. So conspiracy theorists, it always works. They think the moon landing was fake. It's crazy.
You lead the opinion of people. When you go there on TV and have a guest, you make people, you give people opinions. I wanted to ask you, what do you think the opinion of the American people towards the Middle East or towards Muslims? What do you think their point of view?
I think it's hard to speak for all the people. First of all, we have so many millions of Muslims living in America. I have never had prejudice. I think it's the stupidest thing in the world to think one people are better than other people. That's stupid. It's economically stupid. It's morally idiotic. So I don't think white is better. White is better than black. Brown is better than yellow. Don't believe it. I think we're all people. what we think about the Middle East is confusing. Why can't they get together? Why has there always been strife? A lot of it is biblical. The Jews feel this land, the Arabs feel this land, they feel it. Why can't, I mean, to me, as I asked when I did that show with King Hussein and Yitzhak Rabin and Yasser Arafat, why don't you get together? What is all this killing people, this stupid children dying, suicide bombs? It's crazy. So I think what America thinks of the Middle East is confusing. We don't quite understand it.
What do you think in the other way around? How do you see it? What do you think how do Muslims look to us Americans?
Muslims were probably upset with America. Donald Trump ran a campaign. It was very harsh on Muslims. I think he went over the top. America, if you know the Muslims, I have had nothing but wonderful times with Muslim people. I think they're a wonderful religion. I think it's there's bad in every religion. There's bad in every race. There's hypocrisy in every religion, which is terrible. So I think Muslims think they're a little wary. And if I were Muslim, I would be wary. If I were black, I'd be an angry citizen of America. Because slavery, there's still prejudice. I don't understand prejudice. If you were a wise man, if you could explain to me why someone's color makes a difference in anything, I've never heard it. I've never heard it. Someone's religion, what do you care? Someone's gay, what do you care? What do you care? Someone's gay. Why would it even bother you? You got a life to live. Why does that bother you? Someone has a black skin, you have a white skin, someone has a yellow skin, someone has a brown. So what? We're all humans. We're all inhabiting this earth. It's insane.
What bothers people sometimes is that governments go into their private lives. And this is what Edward Snowden done. He told the world that how the American government, how the NSA, how the CIA goes into our private life.
That was very valuable, I think. I only wish that Snowden had stayed here.
What do you think of Snowden?
A lot I admire about him. I mean, he deserved to bring that out, and that should have been taught, and we learned a lot from that. Running away to Russia, I would have rather had him stay here and face the music. But I can't tell him how to live. I can't tell him what to do. I think his motives were excellent. We learned a lot, because to me, privacy is the ultimate. The day that I can hack into you, tap your phone, find out who you're talking to.
Do you want to interview him?
Oh, sure, I would interview Snowden. I admire Oliver Stone, who made the movie. I would interview anyone. See, when I'm asked that, I would have interviewed Hitler. I would have interviewed, I like finding out about people. So why, if you're curious about people, I'm against capital punishment. If someone kills someone, I would want to study them. I wouldn't want to kill them. I don't learn anything about it. It's just revenge. I want to study, why do people do this? You know, to me, it's just the older I get, the more liberal I get, and the less I understand about human nature.
You know that we had the chance to interview Edward Snowden in Boston through satellite when he's in Moscow. What do you think of what we're doing, Mr. Lari?
Oh, you're doing these interviews and talking to people who you perceive have power. You perceive I have power, which is perception to you is reality, so I have power. I think it's a wonderful thing. I think the more you educate people, I think children will learn a lot from this. You're doing disparate people, which I like, because you could do a Larry King and a Mike Tyson and a Bill Gates, which are three very, very different people. That's a wonderful thing, because what you're doing is you're bringing information, and that's what people want. You know, we want information. We want to learn more. When I get up every day, I want to learn more at the end of the day than I knew at the beginning of the day, right? And that's what you're doing. If you add to the information of people, I think it's a wonderful thing you're doing for Kuwait. I hope it branches out from that. Why just Kuwait?
Well, hopefully people will watch throughout the Middle East.
Yeah, well, you're very good.
Thank you.
You're very curious.
Thank you.
You're obviously very on top of things. I admire you a lot. You have a nice yarmulke.
Thank you, Mr. Lari.
And I think I support what you're doing. I salute what you're doing. I thank you for doing it.
Thank you for having us.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you for having us here in your beautiful house.
My home is your home.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving us this chance, and thank you for believing in what we do. Yes, we struggled at the beginning, trying to be here in your house, but at the end of the day, you gave us the green card and you gave us the green light, and we're here.
Nothing's worth it without a struggle.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm honored.
Thank you. It's my honor. Thank you very much.
Shalom alaikum.
تبنيه وإيمانه بما نقوم هو أجمل ما قاله اليوم. لاري كينغ مدرسة في الإعلام ومدرسة في عالم الشاشة الصغيرة. لا يعد أسئلته، وأحيانا يتعرف على ضيوفه أثناء اللقاء، لكنه من قابل العظماء وأجاد إخراج ما في داخلهم. شعاره الصدق ومنهجه الإخلاص. لقاء يا ليته لم ينتهي. شكرا للمتابعة.